these minority of evil men, and they are men, that are trying to infiltrate Western civilization, and they've realized that they can do it by taking advantage of democracy and by breeding. And so they have loads of kids, they get themselves voted into power, and then once they're in power in a democratic society, the only solution then is a violent resolution. Right? It's only when what we're seeing in the UK, I showed you yesterday, they're turning cars over in the UK and setting things on fire.
I just saw some stuff around Bulgaria just recently too.
Well, that's the only way. I mean, violence, sadly, is the only solution.
If that's all you're left with.
And today, Australians have become so passive and complacent and compliant that, and they're like, she'll be right, mate, which has been our charm and our culture, is actually our liability
welcoming.
now. Well, it's actually a liability now. And when I was with you and we were stopping people in the streets, and these were not far-right crazies, we're talking mums and grandmas that are walking on the street and say, why are you here today? And they'd say, I want my grandkids to see this, and that their nan marched to speak up for Britain and to speak up for our country and our values. And I said, what would you say to Australia, who's probably 10 years, 15 years behind the UK? They'd say, please take action much sooner than we did, because we've lost our country. And it's super evident now. It's everywhere in the UK. You're seeing, you know, like we saw that situation just recently where a girl was raped by an immigrant, and she went to jail for calling him a bad name. And he got let off on mental health grounds, saying, I didn't realize the cultural difference. So the rapist is free, and she's in jail because she breached free speech, anti-hate speech laws.
Whereas he potentially did something which is a lot more heinous.
Not potentially, he did it. He did it.
Sticks and stones will break my name. Was it?
But names will never hurt me.
But
not they do.
Not in this case.
So I'm very passionate about this because, you know, if you look at Australia, and I'm also passionate about Australians stop damn well apologising for
being Australian.
For being Australian.
And your values that you represent in this country.
And stop this call to country where your children are being told to apologise and reminded of the fact this is not your land. But if you really want to have that argument, go back in time and look at Indigenous culture. There was battles between one tribe and another tribe, and one tribe prevailed. At the end of the day, where a child is born is not his or her choice. Where they are born is where they were born in that time and place. If you were born in Australia at that time and place, you are an Australian in my mind, and you have just as much right to that land as an Indigenous person who was born into the country years ago. But we are told to apologise, it's not your land. But it's always, they always come from a country where, if it's so great where they are, why are they leaving, right? Why are they trying to change our country to their country? Our country's great, Australia's amazing, but it's becoming less and less amazing. And the other real bugbear for me is this immigration issue, because the government, this is the biggest gaslighting of all time. I had a federal sitting Liberal politician in our podcast just a few weeks ago. And I said, what are your thoughts on immigration and the housing crisis? Surely you must agree that a major driver of our housing crisis is 500,000 new people arriving every 12 months. Well, it's an input. And I'm like, wait, what? Well, it's an input. There's many other factors. And I'm like, bro, that's gaslighting, bro. Like, you can't tell me that half of Adelaide arrives every year, and that's not going to cause a housing shortage.
500,000.
Supply and demand. Real estate is a supply and demand asset. If you add 500,000 people to the demand side, that it's not a input, it is driving it.
You think there are other forces at play?
I think, you know, well, the other thing that they say, and Australians just seem to accept, they say, well, if we didn't have the immigrants, the country would collapse. And I watch people go, okay, well, that sounds right, because who would do all those jobs? Well, all those jobs were done before they started doing this.
Well, in the 50s, as part of the immigrants that came through, right? It was the same deal. The Greeks and the Italians came over. They took the fish and chip shops and all the shitty jobs, and we got along with similar values.
Well, they're Christian. the Greeks and the Italians are Christian as well. They got that shared moral, the 10 Commandments: don't steal, don't rape, don't do shit like that.
Basically the same values within that structure.
Yeah, family oriented and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then fundamentally accepting.
Yep.
Whereas with many people in the Muslim side believe that there is only Allah and there is only the Muslim religion, and all else is just not to be tolerated. Now, it's not everywhere. You go to Dubai and you go to the Middle East, they do have Christian churches being built and they allow coexistence, but in the extreme expression, it's not, right? I've looked at it and I just think Australia is, it's not on a good trajectory. And to your question, is it planned? It has to be. There's something at play here, because they say, like the country would collapse because who's going to build all the houses? We do need people to build the houses, but we need the houses for the fucking people they're bringing in. Right. For the stop bringing the people who don't need the houses. Right. So we've got this sort of argument all the time, and they just I think they're gaslighting the Australian public big time on those two fronts, and this use of the term racist. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a this, you're a that, and it's like, bro, common sense isn't racism. And I've
thinking,
got
asking questions,
critical thinking.
Thinking.
Like I say, we got heaps of Indians in Australia, right?
Yep.
I don't dislike Indians.
No.
They're family people. They're hardworking people. They're business people.
Yep.
I don't dislike Indians. They're peaceful. Mostly, just like Australians, mostly peaceful. There's some Aussie assholes, Indian assholes, but they're not particularly a bad race of people at all.
If anything, they've had some issues with us in the past.
Yeah. There's just too many. There's just too many people coming. It's not that I hate Indians. We've got heaps of Brazilians in Australia. I love Brazilians. They're mostly hardworking. They're funny. They're a good time. But there's a point where we go, look, we just need to cut it off for a minute. Right. Because young people can't afford a house anymore, not even close.
So we're multiplying it, I think Mark brought it up, or the crew did, 1.3, 1.4, and most of the Western world is not recovering on population. And so they look at maybe the numbers too and go, holy shit, we keep this up, our economy is going to crash.
Yep.
Right? We've got too big a machine. It's getting too big in the overhead side to now where we haven't got enough energy and input and value. But then again, we've also got everything that's going to be happening with AI and so on. Won't go into that now. But getting back, sort of bringing this round full circle, we started the burqa and what that stood for. And to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like really it's these oppression, control structures, and these power structures, perhaps they've been corrupted somewhat, right? Be it government, be it religion, right? All these things that are used for control and getting everybody to behave in a certain way.
I despise that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's in my that's where you and I connect. Is in my Instagram bio, I put freedom maximalist,
right,
Bitcoiner.
Right.
I don't trust governments anymore. After COVID, I don't trust Liberal or Labor.
Yep.
I don't actually trust any of them.
Yeah.
Because I think absolute power corrupts absolutely. You look at the incentives. Yeah. But and I guess at the end of the day, human nature, it's very rare that a truly ambivalent, humane person wields great power.
Yeah.
So and at the moment, I've got friends who are, a particular couple, she served 30 years at the federal level as a politician, sitting member.
Yep.
And they just said, I asked them the question point blank. You were there at dinner.
They've been inside. They're inside.
As close as it gets.
That's as close as it gets. They see everything.
And I said, are you telling me that, because I said this immigration thing, right? Like, are they bringing people in for votes, right? And absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's been brought in for votes.
All the welfare from the government. It's okay. Sit back, watch Netflix, sit back in the lounge and watch TV, kind of.
Yeah.
Eat your Cheetos
But bring them in so that you stay in power. And I'm like, so they're selling our national identity, the Australian culture, everything that makes up Australia, diluting it.
Yep.
Diluting our money by printing away to nothing. Yeah, and then they're diluting away our culture to stay in power. Right? And when you really think about that, that when you think back of growing up in Australia and you think about like what it meant to be Australians, and as I think it was I think it might have been Andy Shumlow, who we had on our pod. He's a South African intellectual,
Right.
Really, really vocal guy, very smart. And he said, in his opinion, when Australians are at their best, nobody in the world beats them. And this is coming from a South African who's done a lot politically in Australia. He said, Australians at their best are the best people in the world. And I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
Back when mateship and all this, but the country's changing and they're struggling to get people to join the army because none of those young people can afford a house anymore. Yeah. And Lee Kuan Yew, who built Singapore, and you spent a lot of time, one of the greatest leaders of all time, incredible leader. Yeah. And he said, Australia's problem, he called it years ago, he said, if your young people don't have a stake in the country through home ownership, you're going to struggle to get them in the military. Because they don't have any sense of ownership.
There's nothing to protect.
There's nothing to protect. They don't feel connected to the country. And they're just going to leave. Right. And these politicians just come up with new ways to tax anybody that has a go. Yep. So a lot of my friends are just leaving. Right. And because they don't want to have the political fight because it's so corrupt. Right. And you see these things like this Bureau of Meteorology website costing $93,000, and you see this digital ID ban that came out.
Million? I think it was millions. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, $93 million. Yeah. The Bureau, and it came out. I think you might have sent me the reel, or it's an advertising executive and somebody else that's behind the digital ID platform. And it's just all this insider corruption. Yep. And in the end, it's just what's being lost is our kids' futures. Yeah. Where every dollar they print to give to some blue-haired lefty idiot about some stupid idea that they've got is just your kid's future. It's the debt that's being printed into the oblivion. And people just don't connect that they're selling the future economic energy of the country, which is literally the life of future Australians. Yeah. Literally their time and energy are going to go into paying taxes to pay off bad decisions that they're making today.
We're kicking the can down the road. And I think there's too much self-interest, unfortunately, at within the government layer. It's got a little lazy. But I've seen it. I've got like 8 or so people, and it's growing. And they happen to be primarily of like Greek heritage, looking to, repatriate. Yeah, making their moves back to, and then looking at Cyprus and so on, right? So, and it's interesting. Every one of them so far, 90% coming out of Melbourne, which was hit the hardest
with COVID.
The soul was ripped out of that poor state, right? And they've got a huge financial issue.
They're the most indebted state in the world.
In the world.
In the world.
Right.
The most indebted state of any country anywhere on the planet Earth is Victoria.
Was the most lockdown state in the world.
These idiots like Dan Andrews and Jacinta Allen, these complete morons, have bankrupted basically the state of Victoria. Yeah. And who pays for it? Yeah. The taxpayer.
Yeah.
And this is the point, Tommy, like you use the phrase, kick the can down the road. I want listeners to understand that that's a turn of phrase. What it actually is an average Aussie getting a bill in the mailbox for an additional tax, which to pay means mum or dad not being home with their kids because they're out earning money to pay that tax.
I don't know how kids are brought up in this country. We're in beautiful Bali right now, but in Australia, our kid was brought up and born in Singapore, and we had a helper. And even then, we had 2 careers. I don't know how families do it, let alone one, more kids. I know my sister, she's got like 4. Right, and she's more of a stay-home mum. So my brother-in-law's carrying the biggest chunk of that burden easily. But like, I don't know how they do it. Like, it's so fucking hard.
Yeah,
it was hard enough for me.
I saw it. Today I don't know how families are doing. I just saw the ABC put a thing out. I'd show you on the phone, but it's filming. But I think it showed what the average, what household income you need to rent a house in Darwin, Brisbane. All of them now are over $100,000 a year that you have to have coming into the home just to rent a home in Australia. And there was another research out recently, and it was basically this report that this guy did out of the States, and it'd be similar here, that what they define as the poverty line was set in 1960, and it was 3 times groceries or something. It was some, but so many economic assumptions and decisions are made on these kind of like stake in the ground assumptions, and the poverty line is one of those critical stakes. So he went and did the math, and it works out that the new poverty line, and we spoke about this on our podcast, is something like $160,000 a year now is the poverty line. just to put kids in schools and feed them, and it's just wild.
Right.
And that's the world we're moving into because of irresponsible money printing. Politicians can't resist just printing away our kids' futures, literally taxing them to death.
Right. I think Maddie Cameron put that post up in the last week, that $4 million or $5 million it costs to just to be able to live there as a basic family unit and educate.
Because people don't think about that. They think about, okay, mum and dad die. Kids go through school, weddings, you know, and it does. It works out to millions of dollars over time. And that's why, you know, I've seen my 2 brothers both in business and done fairly well. They never had any money. They've been able to get a house, and they got the house, you know, put some money under them. But that's just relative wealth that when they sell their house, they just get another one of the same standard. And they're not like rock star mansions or anything.
Right.
But because they have kids, they're just constantly like behind the 8 ball, just feeding them, clothing them, schooling them, excursioning them, fines, taxes,
daycare,
daycare. Right. It's just, and that's what's gone. That's what's being lost. And then you layer onto that the 500,000 new people coming in, which is just driving the prices up. Australians just, you know.
So, a big question for you then. Have you ever thought of going into politics?
Oh, very briefly, but no.
Right.
Yeah. I thought about it when I was in London. I thought, oh, maybe should I do this? Because I felt something, right? Not towards being a politician, but just I felt like this sense of like unification of the people on the street. Wouldn't it be amazing to actually be involved in? Now, Tommy's not a politician. He's an influencer, really. He's a content creator.
Right.
And people are going to have their opinion. He's a shill.
With a cause, we'd like to think.
With a cause.
And
people are going to have their opinions, whatever else. But at the end of the day, there's something about that. But in Australia, I would never be a politician, and I know that there are good people in politics in Australia. And they
stand out.
I see people saying every politician's a complete scumbag. Well, I wouldn't agree. Like I look at Gerard Rennick. I've interviewed him. He's like a thoroughly decent person. He's not a Bitcoiner. He should be. For a smart guy, that's one thing he's gotten wrong. But he's much smarter than me on pretty much everything else. And I think he's a very decent person. I think Pauline Hanson. I think her heart is for Australia. Whether she's somebody that you would be close friends with personally or not, I like her and I think she's great. But there's a lot of younger people coming up through the ranks in Australia.
The guy in Adelaide. What's his name? I've forgotten.
Can't think of his name.
He's really senator.
But the incentives, when you think about it, of being a politician in Australia, especially a straight politician. If you want to be crooked, maybe, but if you actually want to play it straight and actually do good, the incentives are pretty bad.